Employee is found not guilty of sexually assaulting a coworker. James Cherry was a corrections officer at the Tecumseh State Correctional Institution. Last week in a jury trial, he was found not guilty of 3 of the 4 charges of sexual assault. The jury couldn't decide on one of the charges of third-degree sexual assault. The judge then dismissed that charge. However, the state could decide to prosecute him on the last charge.